Tasmin, hello, and we are just so excited in the London Mozart Players that you're going to be performing with us. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, and I've been looking forward to this so much. I mean, it's been an interesting time for all of us musicians, of course, without anything concrete in the diary. How much does one practice? What do you practice? And so then when this suggestion came in, I was thrilled and over the moon, and particularly to be asked to play one of my most favourite pieces, the Lark Ascending.
So tell me, why do you love playing the Lark Ascending? Why is it special to you?
I think the Lark Ascending is special to many people because it takes us into a place inside ourselves where we can feel peace and tranquility, and there's something so beautiful and restful about the way that Vaughan Williams uses the harmonies, and I'm going to be really interested to play it just in this string version because, of course, normally I've played it with woodwind, but his use of strings is so tasteful and beautiful, so I'm sure it's going to work beautifully.
And a lovely space to play it in, this magnificent church.
This is a wonderful acoustic, and yes, just lovely to have an acoustic again, because I think most of us, we're very fed up of our rooms where we practice with absolutely no acoustic whatsoever, so yes, the generosity of a church is very welcome.
Indeed. The Elgar Salut damour, this is an interesting arrangement as well, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Again, I'm used to playing it with piano, but I did also do a version for violin and orchestra, which I recorded a few years ago. And again, like the Lark Ascending, the Elgar is the kind of piece that you just want to sink back and revel in the harmonies and the beauty of it.
It's an interesting programme, isn't it? We've got the Holberg Suite to start, and then this beautiful English repertoire, and then I gather it's Independence Day in the States, and we're playing Copeland Hoedown, which seems entirely appropriate, doesn't it?
I think it's a fantastic programme because, I mean, it's got everything. It's got the bubbles and vivacity, and then, of course, this more thoughtful Lark Ascending, and then just a crazy dance that everybody can enjoy and really get into. So, brilliant programming, LMP. Well done.
And just going back a bit, how did you start playing the violin? Did you start when you were very young? Are you from a musical family? I'd love to know.
Oh, well, my father is an actor. And so I sort of grew up with the idea of performance, and he was in a lot of musicals as well. So I grew up listening to songs from Oliver and Fiddler on the Roof and all sorts. And then I fell ill with chickenpox when I was 6, and I started to play the recorder, and then I just decided I really wanted to play the violin, and I picked it up, and it just felt like a wonderful experience. I mean, I'm not sure our first notes as violinists are ever that beautiful. But I knew what a violin was supposed to sound like, and I knew what I wanted it to sound like, and I think that that's the answer, isn't it? When people ask me sometimes why won't my child practice the violin, I think they need to be enthused by listening to music, hearing what the violin can sound like, and then wanting to create that sound themselves.
So true. What musicians influenced you sort of as you were growing up, or perhaps as you were a student, or maybe still do influence you?
I think I'm influenced by many musicians, not just violinists, but great cellists and wonderful pianists as well. From the violinist point of view, I think, don't we all just love David Oistrakh? I mean, he's just a complete god for most of us. But I grew up also listening to recordings of Ida Handel, and I loved the fact that she was such a strong woman. I think I found her quite an inspiring role model.
With her dog called Decca.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes. I used to do a violin course in Israel, and Ida used to teach on it, and she always had her lovely little dog called Decca.
Oh, there you are. What a great name for a dog, hey?
So I gather that you are actually stepping aside from the concert platform, which is a pity for us, but I'd love to know what your plans are.
Thank you. Yes, I mean, listen, I love playing the violin. But as you know, it is 24/7, and it is it's not a career, it's a lifestyle. And so really I have felt for a while that I wanted to give myself some different challenges and do some different things. So I have been invited to make some radio programs, and I will continue to give masterclasses both here and also abroad. I'll do some adjudicating of some competitions, and I like writing as well, so I'll probably do some writing. And then I want to take up some hobbies. I can't paint to save my life, so I think I'd like to learn how to paint, and I definitely fancy trying my hand at a potter's wheel.
Nice. What about, I mean, you've had this incredible career. Is there a highlight? Is there a concert that stands out in your memory, or was it all too wonderful to single something out?
I think that you can't say that every single concert was the highlight of your career, but I have been so lucky in the 30 years that I've been playing professionally. I have done some truly exciting things. I do think that going with Simon Rattle and the Berlin Philharmonic to play at the Carnegie Hall has got to be, you know, it's just one of those places that all musicians really want to play. We feel like you've sort of grown up when you've been to Carnegie Hall. But I can think of many places, and not just even the big concert halls. I mean, I have played in most of the prestigious concert halls in the whole world, and it's very exciting to play there. But I also have enjoyed very much connecting with my smaller audiences at recitals. And for instance, if you play to 300 or 400 people and you can chat to them about the music, you can really have a much more direct relationship with the audience, whereas, you know, if you're playing for about 3,000 people, or in the case of the proms, of course, you're playing to 7,000 people. Actually, I do remember doing one concert that was very exciting, and it was the proms in the park, and it was the first time I had looked at an audience of 40,000 people in Hyde Park. So that did get the pulse racing a bit.
But sometimes it's almost more nerve-wracking when you play to a smaller audience, because you see people's faces. When you see a whole sea of faces, it's sort of less, as you say, it's less personal, less intimate, and therefore possibly less frightening. Do you agree?
I know what you mean about when people are very, very close by, but I think it depends on, you know, how what mood you pick up from the audience, and also what mood you are in yourself. And I think, you know, if I've ever felt a little bit, oh gosh, you know, I tend to choose one person, and I play to that one person, generally somebody that's smiling up at me.
What about the idea of these virtual concerts? It's quite tough, isn't it, not having an audience in the flesh, although we know they're there behind the screen. How do you think you're going to cope with that?
It is very, very different to try and do things virtually. I think for me the most important thing is to have the audience in my mind's eye, to imagine that I'm playing in front of people, and I've had enough experience of that to be able to recreate it. So I think that that's just what I'm going to keep in mind, just that feeling of having walked on stage, having taken a bow, and just settling myself into a performance. So I'll just sort of fast forward and settle myself into the performance.
And hopefully at some point we'll get back to our normal state of the music industry. I wonder what it's like for young people coming out of music college, how they must be feeling at the moment. It must be tough, I think.
I think it's very tough indeed, but I suppose the one thing that I would say is that we are very creative people, and it's hard to keep us down for long, and these are skills that our young musicians must learn, in fact, because even once things ease and we are able to have audiences once again, I think it's extremely useful for people who are going through college and even just beginning their careers to get used to presenting themselves to whatever. And let's face it, when you go into a recording studio, which you and I have done, we have to also get ourselves in that mentality, because there isn't an audience there. So it's the same skill that we need to bring to that.
Well, Tasmin, it's been an absolute delight talking to you, and as I say, thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts for performing with the London Mozart Players, because it means so much to us.
Well, I'm so happy to have this opportunity, because London Mozart Players were one of the very first orchestras kind enough to give me, a young violinist starting out at the beginning of my career, a break, and so it is such a pleasure to be back with you.
Thank you.